120 seconds. 110 seconds. 100 seconds. 90 seconds. 80 seconds. 70 seconds. 60 seconds. 50 seconds. 40 seconds. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
'Hi,
my name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
My friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. This morning, talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, talk champion Jonathan Small is in the house. Good morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Doing fine, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here again, like I mentioned every single week. Look forward to it, as usual.
All right. How was your weekend?
Weekend was nice. I mean, yesterday, just tried to rest and lay back, taking care of a lot of business. Saturday, so it's always usually one or the other, you know. You try to relax and enjoy one day and then still take care of business the other weekend. And it looked like it was a pretty nice weekend. I think a little rain shower was like teasing you a little bit yesterday. I didn't I thought it was going to be a rainy, gloomy day. Then the sun broke out and it got sunny. So kind of a strange pattern. And, talking to a few people in Texas, man, they're burning up down that state. As usual, though, that's nothing new.
Texas, your guest today is from Texas, right?
Ironically, and I wasn't even thinking about that totally, but you're right. 100 degrees, humid, some parts dry, some parts humid, and it stays that way from what I hear. It doesn't go down too often.
I would imagine down around the Gulf, with all that humidity and water.
Oh yeah,
that's be horrible. But I guess you get used to it.
You get used to it, but it's a long summer though, man. I mean, air conditioning on all day. Like people say down south and places like that, they just keep the air conditioning on. From you get out your house, you go into a car, air conditioning, go into every store, air conditioned. Nobody really stays outside during the daytime. Basically you have to do your errands early in the morning, then wait till the sun go down. So, we can't be babies up here, man, talking about, well, it's 90 degrees. Well, it technically 90 is a heat wave for 3 days, but
I guess all things are relative. If you're used to it being about 80, 70 to 80, 90's hot, especially if it's humid.
Yeah, if it's humid, that's the key.
And then you've got winter here.
Yes.
So what it seems to me, wherever you are, it's going to be an issue. What's going on with my focus here? Focus, manual, autofocus. There we go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you got places like San Diego got considered one of the best weather patterns in the country. It doesn't get that hot. Never really get cold. Stays like 70s to 80. You got some parts that's unique like that. You got some places where the summers are cool, like Buffalo. They have cool summers up there. Doesn't really get that hot. So you got different climate changes throughout the country. But some places get extremely hot in the summertime and get extremely cold in the wintertime. Chicago, it gets hot in the summer and it gets cold with that late wind. So you got places like that. I think overall New England has a nice climate. Though I think overall the winters could be a little of a drag. Springs come a little late for some time. Autumns to me go by fast. That's what favorite time of the year.
Well, every season's 13 weeks, so it's. I think all things are. I think what's going on? All things are relative.
Things are relative, right?
All things are relative. But a friend of mine left me a message the other day saying, "You guys get on here, you start talking about the weather."
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
We would talk about something. Talk about something to make some sense. Talk about the weather.
All right. Well, I can get into some heavy conversation now. I'm just breaking the ice. I got some heavy. I guess it's not going to come to this quarter to 9.
Yeah, quarter to 9. So we got a part. Shows got to first half, second half. Usually the first half is the gas, second half is conversation. But on this episode, first half is conversation, second half is gas. So
yeah, a little adjustment.
So what's the heavy subject?
Well, the heavy subject is I don't know. I was listening to a Pan-Africanist yesterday and talking about the difference of people in America aiming to be comfortable or more comfortable, comparable to being liberated and free.
Well,
and I think you have to be. See, to me, comfortable, I think, is the quick fix. I got to take a nice, cool shower. I got to have nice drinks. I want a better car.
You're an American.
Right. But the liberation part that he's talking about is the bigger picture.
Well, liberation is necessary when people feel that they aren't free.
Well, are we really free, to be honest?
I am. I can't speak to nobody else. See, what sets my parameters for freedom works for me. My freedom can't be defined by you or someone else.
If you say a personal freedom, do you feel personal free? You don't buy into the argument until all of us are free. We're really not free. Maybe that's not the correct terminology. Sometimes the Pan-Africanism movement, that's what they aim for. Yes, you feel free. That's the first goal. You got to look at yourself in the mirror.
Well, I'm the only one I have to look at when I look in the mirror.
but I don't know if that classifies what he's talking about with the liberation movement. I don't.
Well,
think
I
that's-
mean, if you're into liberating a group of people, your people, their people, our people, and you're part of a cause, then the battle isn't over until the cause is won. So if you're like if you're at war, like you're part of an army, and you escape, but the other people who you were fighting with didn't escape, then you have an obligation to the mission to go back and try and free them.
Right.
Because you're not free until the whole group is free. So it all depends on whether or not you consider yourself part of the group that's fighting. I mean, you could live your whole life fighting because you're never ever going to be satisfied because someone isn't free.
Right.
And
Well-
so,
Well, again, I mean, to put it in the political terms and put the ball in your court stand, you are running for mayor of Hartford for the 4th time. You don't have to run. You are doing pretty well with your life, I would assume. But you see something wrong in the big picture for the capital city that you want to correct, which I feel that's the big motivating factor of you deciding to run. So evidently, you could be doing well, and I mean, certainly as a city resident, Stan, issues are going to affect you too. You can't deny that to some degree. May not be to the magnitude of what you're really looking at for the whole city, but certainly there has to be something that you see wrong, or you just want to make the city better. Maybe you don't see anything dramatically.
There are things that are good. There are things that could be better. So
Right.
I fight to make things better. I love Hartford. I want to fight to make things better for people that live here, that things aren't doing, things aren't as good as they could be for them, in my opinion. So, I can't speak for anybody else. To the degree that there are others who agree with me, then there must be a group of individuals who feel the same way. So we work together to make change.
Well,
When it comes to this whole me as a person trying to move things forward, of course, I, like a whole lot of other people, don't have to do anything.
right. Well,
Because there's 9 people running for mayor,
right.
But there's over 100,000 people not running for mayor.
All right. City residents.
Right, 100,000 people don't want to be mayor. So it's not like there's a lot of people that do want to be mayor. Point in fact, there are very few people that want to be mayor. There's a whole lot of people who you couldn't make the mayor.
Well, the mayor's not like an appointed position. You have to run through the electoral process.
Right, but even still, a lot of people would never even sign up to. If you could guarantee they could win, they wouldn't do it.
Well, it's a big task. I think it's a big responsibility.
Right. So I only say that to say this. I run because I think it's something that I can do. I think it's something I could do well. And I have a vision, and there are people who agree with my vision. There are also people who disagree with my vision. So as a cause,
But the thing is, I mean, I hope I'm not mixing apples and oranges with liberation and political representation for elected office position.
I'm sure some of the liberation people would think you are.
I am, yeah. I am mixing apples, but at the same time, both are needed. Now, some people don't believe in the political system. Some people who are in the Pan-Africanism movement, they don't really buy into the political system.
You're right.
So yeah, I guess it is mixing apples and oranges. But the whole big picture, you can feel you're doing okay, and you could say, well, I'm content. Let me move on with my life. Let me just circulate with people who think like that, which is the normal tradition. But the whole movement of a liberated Pan-Africanism movement, what the person was saying is feeling like the more comfortable you get, the more materialistic items you purchase, you feel more better. Sometimes people can do both. You can aim to achieve more, which is your given right, and you could still try to be liberated, which I'm not sure you really, I don't know if that goes hand in hand, or maybe that's not a good working combination. Maybe it's like capitalism and socialism. They don't really work together. Maybe it's either you're gaming to be more comfortable, achieve the American so-called dream, or try to become liberated.
I don't know, Jonathan. You know, all of that, all of what you're talking about takes place up here. It's a headspace thing.
Right.
So depending upon who you're talking to, whatever works in their head, you are your brain or your mind. You are your thoughts. As a man thinketh, so is he. So people think all kinds of things.
Right.
The way I think works for me. I'm not trying to. Now, I think there's a best way to embrace, but I'm not really trying to impose my will on everyone else. A lot of people get caught up into this thing. Like, if you don't think like I think, then something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
If you don't think like I think, then you shouldn't be allowed to be. You know, you think about that, or you think about this. You think about this about those people, and therefore you are no good. I mean, there's no end to that. Of the 8 billion people on the planet, and someone has the audacity to say that if you don't think like I think.
Well, I think the Pan-Africanism, that's how they actually think to some degree. Some of them, at least some of the people I'm listening to, they kind of dictate, well, is something wrong with you buying into this whole operation of functioning the way people function in the United States. The late Dr. Assegai, you know how controversial he existed, and you know he would speak his mind at the drop of a dime. And if you didn't somewhat later on in his life, I think he did tone himself down a little bit or a lot. But in the beginning, man, I mean, you know, if he was against you, particularly, you know, people. What's they call it? The house, whatever they have, whatever they had, the Breakfast Club or whatever they had, a house diner, the African American Alliance. He will say that he quit. Reverend Price said he had to put him out or fire him. He was told by people that he should get on a boat and go back to where he came from.
Well, that's how they felt. I mean, I guess I get along with so many people because. I'm cool with how they think. You know, how other people think doesn't really affect me unless they're coming after me to physically impose upon me some particular point of view. People are free to think whatever they want to think. You know, that what they think stops at the end of their brain.
But you have an issue with certain policies. I think that's probably the biggest issues. You're not in favor of legalizing marijuana in Connecticut. You don't think
but that's me.
Right.
So I can enforce that with myself.
Right.
I don't have to smoke. So if someone else decides to be in their house and smoke whatever it is they want to smoke, that's up to them.
Well, I know recently, and it could be somewhat connected, you know, here it is, college UConn student, 18 years old of age, is meeting someone, ends up being killed, thinking a robbery, then the police find a large sum of marijuana. I'm under the impression that would knock the black market, if it hasn't been confirmed, obviously, whether it was a drug deal or a robbery, but that's just the way it had looked. So I'm under the impression that legalizing marijuana in Connecticut would knock off the black market, that you wouldn't have that type of problem.
You know, there's a black market for every single thing that is sold. There's a black market for steel, power tools. Now, suppose that would have been a diamond exchange. Suppose he was selling some hot diamonds.
Right.
He had $20 million worth of diamonds in the car. And so maybe they need to do something about the legal, illegal, underground sale of diamonds. And then maybe he would be alive. There's no end to those discussions.
Well, there's no end. But see, here's the way people in America think. We would assume a person in college has his future ahead of him.
He did have his future ahead of him.
He just made a drastic mistake.
He made a mistake like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Everyone has their future ahead of it. A bright, rosy future isn't limited to someone who's going to college.
No.
College people have just as many problems as uncolleged individuals, Jonathan. You're putting that's your rosy picture of his future.
Well, the stereotype would be
Stereotypes are a stereotype is just that, a stereotype.
Well, there might be some statistical data that usually a high school dropout is the one that's going to get caught up into crime, but that's not really the case. And
Right.
This is an example.
Right.
But you would assume if he was a high school dropout and he had no future, which I think dropping out of high school diminishes your odds.
Dropping out of high school diminishes some of the opportunities you may have access to, but dropping out of high school doesn't preclude and demand that your future is doomed. One could say, because I know people who have dropped out of high school got more than 3 degrees.
Yeah.
So, who knows what motivates an individual? So these are the kinds of discussions I think people get caught up in because they become hypothetical. Because the persons having the discussion are talking about someone else. And they really have no way of imposing the fix for those other people on them unless they get into some sort of elected office or a group of people who set policy. And you have these people making policies for folks that aren't them, that they believe best suit those people. And I always find that interesting. I think the people who should be talking about the policies are the individuals who are affected by the situation, and they want suggestions. And they come and ask for the suggestions, as opposed to some group of people with long thought sitting around thinking, well, I think that those people over there would do better if they had red houses, statistically speaking.
Well, put it this way, because I was 18 and lost, and older than that and lost. If you are a person and you are accepted into a university, and whatever the circumstances may be, now there's money obviously in marijuana, even the black market. So when the police officers find a large sum of marijuana in your vehicle, that's not a normal, that's not a low level. Again, hasn't been determined how much marijuana that was found inside the car. But again, look at what you're going up against. It could be making money to supplement your education. College is very expensive. Don't know if you...
Yeah, but see, the hypothetical, it could be, means we don't really know. It could be that the large sum of marijuana that was found in the car winds up in the police officer's car and never turned into evidence.
Right. But so far...
That could be too.
Yeah, but so far it was determined that it was a large sum of marijuana in the person's vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So the police hasn't determined how much marijuana.
No, they know exactly how much it was. You don't know.
I don't know. Right. That's part of their investigation.
Right. They know exactly to the ounce how much it was. We don't know because that information hasn't been made to the public.
Right. But you see where I'm going at. There is problems when you can make a drastic mistake in your life and get killed. And this is a perfect example. Now, I don't know if the Pan-Africanism movement feels that they have a strategy that you can prevent these type of things from happening. I guess if you know yourself, you know your true purpose in life. So you under this impression, Stan, that you advocate that everybody should be in a free state of mind. People should not be intoxicated with any substances.
The clearer your mind, the better you are at making decisions that affect your life.
Right. But
a lot of things can cloud the mind. Mm-hmm. Lots of things.
But see, that's again the aim in America and Canada and other places throughout the world is you want to become more comfortable. Now, how you choose to have a better comfortable life where you can deal with stresses and pressures and problems and not feel you have to turn to illegal substances or whatever. Because right now, if you want to be point honest, then you have major vices that is part of not just the economy, but part of how people function. You have more drugs, you have more pornography, illegal and legal gambling. Cigarettes and alcohol is legal. I don't know how you want to classify that, but let's just put that into the equation too. So when you got these type of vices that's out here, you could say be in a clear state of mind. You don't, this is the way you compete against these vices. Some people will tell you we need to regulate it. We'll be better served as a country. We've already kind of accepted things now of having gambling operating the way gambling is. It's legal in just about every state in the country.
Well, Jonathan, I mean, it depends upon what one's looking for. If you're looking for everything that could possibly be wrong, go wrong, is wrong, then that's what you will find.
Yeah.
There's no end to those possibilities. Other persons look for everything that could be good. That's what they'll find. We find what we look for.
Right.
And so individuals have to make a decision in their own life. What kind of quality of life do I want? And how many people can I help in my small circle, medium circle, or large circle?
But
and to the degree that I can, I will. Otherwise, you will commiserate until your death, talking about how it could be better. And those people over there aren't doing good. Or my family ain't doing good. And 10 years from now, that people are still having that same conversation.
Well, people will say over 400 years if you really judge the way things operate. I mean, if you want to break everything down, not me, but if you want to go by experts,
Yeah, but that's
they will tell you advancement. Yes, there has been tremendous advancements in this country for certain groups of people, but certainly you can look at the statistical data. This is not just rhetoric.
Yeah, but no, it's the truth. But at the end of the day, it's how does it apply to your life?
Right.
Not someone else's life. Your life. I have many conversations with a whole lot of people. And many of those people are concerned about the quality of life of someone else, but they themselves are doing fine.
How does it apply to a person's life if you live in a hostile environment? Directly, no. If somebody is being loitering, nuisance, okay, maybe to some degree you are exposed to it, you don't want to look at it, so that affects you.
Then move.
Right, but you trying, and that gets to my point, moving to be more comfortable. That's all you can do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But where do you tell a group of people moving upward mobility, advancement, not just move from one cesspool to another cesspool?
Jonathan.
So be real when you say move.
I am being extremely real when I say move.
Right.
You are the author of your own peace, confusion, or demise. We make decisions. 5 people decided to get in a little boat. They got crushed at the bottom of the sea. All of them were exceedingly wealthy. Going to look at the Titanic. They made a mistake. Some mistakes are catastrophic. There is no recovery or comeback from those mistakes. I don't care whether you're extremely rich or dirt poor. The quality of life that one has an opportunity to lead is relative to the individual unless you make those quality of life decisions for your life, comparing them to someone else. And how many years do you have to live to get to be like they are?
Well,
as opposed to like how you have the potential to make your life. There's always going to be someone that does better than you
or worse
than you. That's just life.
But my whole argument from the beginning, Stan, is the two choices is just to become more comfortable or to be liberated.
That's up to you.
That's the long and short of it.
That is up to the individual. It's up to the individual.
Right.
To me, it's not even an argument. It's a choice. Do you want to be a freedom fighter, or do you want to sit back and drink a martini by the pool? That's a decision you have to make.
But you made a good argument, or you made a good point about you're good with your life. So however you look at it, I mean, again, as an individual trying to aim and you feel comfortable and you feel your life is in satisfaction, the only thing you are doing, Stan, is you see some issues in the city that clearly you must be dissatisfied with, running for 4 different times. So
I'm not necessarily have to be dissatisfied. I think I could do a better job.
Okay, so that's different.
I think I could do a better job, and in doing that better job, hold people accountable to do a better delivery of services.
Oh, okay.
There seems to be a need. So
Right.
I think I could fill that need.
Right.
I can see where other people are impacted by this lack of good quality service. How can I help?
Uh-huh.
How can I see a guy stand on the side of the road, the car broke down. I don't have a need to fix his car.
Right.
He has a need.
Mm-hmm.
I have a solution, and I'm willing to help him.
Okay.
A lot of people driving by, seeing him on the side of the road, could care less.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am.
Okay.
You know, it's not gonna break my heart if I don't, succeed.
Right.
But I believe that Hartford needs a better chance. That Hartford can do better, and I'm willing to do my part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna complain about how it could be better. I'm gonna try and make it better. That's the difference with me. If I see something wrong, I'm gonna put my hands to the task to see if I can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
If once I do that, then I've done my part.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do no more than try to help someone else as I pass through this weary road. That's all I can do.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit on the weary road and complain about everything I see, because that's not going to make quality of life for me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, nobody really want to hear me complaining. But
Right.
you got a guest on cue.
He's on cue. Okay. He's earlier. Thank you. That's good.
Yeah. So why don't we take a break?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be back with our special guest for the morning. Sound like a plan?
Sound like a good plan. All
All
right.
right. Stick and stay, my friends. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. A little bit of Jay Hogart
Let's take a quick
while we
break.
take a quick break.
How do you define evil? Is evil the pedophile school administrator or taxation without representation? Is it the gatekeeping community leaders who sell out the very people they were elected to fight for? Or is evil the politician that puts out lies and takes in cash? However you may classify evil, having to choose the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. Nowhere does this rule apply more than during an election for mayor. Choosing a candidate who is the lesser of two evils still leaves you with evil. No wonder so many people don't vote. It's time for the constituents to flip the script and vote for a mayor you can trust. My name is Jason McCauley. I am an independent thinker and I approve this message. I'm asking you for your vote on Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023 in the Democratic Party primary election for mayor for the city of Hartford. I, like you, am an independent thinker. So let's sit down and talk about my path to victory and why my 5-point plan for Hartford will work. Stop listening to the uninformed evil interests that tell you I can't win. For more information, visit McCauleyformayor.com. Have the courage to vote your conscience. Vote for the name you trust and know. Vote McCauley for mayor.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, welcome back. Morning Talk. I'm your host, J. Stan McCauley, along with the champions of talk. Of course, co-hosting this morning, Jonathan Small. Jay Hogarth there. All right, yeah. So, as we were saying before we went to the break.
Well, you were saying your reasons for running for mayor of Hartford. You was giving your explanation. You had corrected me when I said it's not about being dissatisfied. It says that you're trying to make the city better.
Right. I think there's some people who would do a bad, who shouldn't be mayor, that are running for mayor.
Right.
But that's different from why I'm running for mayor. And I'm sure that they believe I wouldn't make a good mayor.
To be a fair question, there's a lot of strengths about you, but what would be one area that you would like to improve towards becoming mayor of the city that people might find that you could improve a little bit better? If you could think of anything.
Something that I could do to be better. I was better informed about the issues that affect everyone in the city. My whole vision is based on the needs of individuals. So, you're limited as to what you know. There are communities within this city that I just don't know. I mean, I know a lot of different communities, but the city is very, very diverse. We have an international city. Like 76 different languages are spoken in the city. You don't hear much about that fact. But what do most people in the city know about the Bosnian community?
Yeah, I know very little.
Or the community where people are from, or the Orient. From China or Japan or Russia or the Ukrainian community. What do people know about the Ukrainian community that lives in Hartford and the Russian community that lives in Hartford? Or the Yugoslavian community? Or the Albanian community? There are a lot of different communities in the city. if you were to listen to most people, the only communities you think that were here were African American in the Caribbean, the Spanish speaking community, whether it be Puerto Rican or Peruvian or Argentinian. There's a lot of communities in the city.
Yeah, but those are still the majority. So even when you mention
Russia, but the majority, while the majority rules, it rules with an understanding that there are a minority of individuals who have just as valid needs, and those needs are need to be met as well as others. So when you ask, what could I do better? It would be to better know all of the communities in Hartford, because we don't just cater to the majority communities. That's the problem right now with as you're talking about your Pan-Africans.
Right. Well, keep in mind, I'm not a Pan-Africanist. I mean, I might have been giving you and other people the impression that I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm not a Pan-Africanist. I see some things about the Pan-Africanist movements that I like, some areas I don't really care for. So it's kind of an in-between. But I actually think more as the being more comfortable. I think you function better when you're more comfortable. I think when you have nice, clean clothes, you have better food, better drinks, better atmosphere. I think, for me, I think most people, you function more better. If you're hungry, you're eating rotten food, bills can't be paid, relationships are shambling up because of this and that. I think you function better as an individual when you're more comfortable.
No doubt. I think that's what everyone is ultimately striving and fighting for.
Right.
A standard of life that suits the individual. So if that's what everybody's fighting for, then,
yeah,
that would be, to me, reasonable to go after.
Well, truthfully, I did want to bring someone sort of an expert to really get into what I really wanted to get into. It's just that we had some time, so I said, let's talk about this.
Well, our expert is ready to join us.
Okay.
And we're gonna have him come on. We're gonna ask him just to tilt his camera down just a little bit, and then we'll be tilt down just a hair. Yeah. There we go. That's good. So, our guest is joining us this morning, so we'll let Jonathan Small have the honor, since he is the official booker of guests. Jonathan Small, you have the floor.
Well, good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. This morning we have a guest who is an expert in some areas, and he has a tremendous track record on a particular city and area of the country that we're going to be talking about as the main topic of discussion. He believes in helping people. He has a human side quality that kind of separates him from a normal business perspective. And I think he brings a lot of different types of important information to the table. Just met this person a couple days ago, so I really don't know a lot about him. But what I have been able to find out sounds very interesting. The guest this morning is the president and CEO, I believe, of Execufirm, Inc., if I'm saying it correctly. He's also the executive director of the National Association of Minority Contractors based out of Houston, Texas. No other than Abel R. Garcia. Good morning, Abel. How are you doing? Can he hear me, Stan? Okay. Good morning, Abel.
Looks like his image froze.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm getting a broken up feed on this end.
There we go. We can see you now. It's coming through.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I was saying good morning, Abel. How are you doing?
Well, good morning. It's good to talk to you again.
It is a pleasure. Abel, before we get into our main topic of conversation, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas? This picture is freezing up. Okay.
Yeah. Abel?
Reception okay?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Your signal is a little bit choppy. Can you hear us? Yeah, there we
He's
go.
moving.
Well,
But it's keep freezing.
yeah. I think we're all set now.
Okay.
Okay, Abel, again, you mentioned you're from Houston, Texas. Could you let people know a little bit briefly about yourself before we get into our main topic of discussion?
Yes, thank you for asking. Name is Abel R. Garcia. When I came to Houston, I didn't need to use the R because there were very few Garcias. But at any rate, I'm a native Texan. Came to Houston as fast as I could. I worked for a Dairy Queen company, and 7 years later, I bought 7 or 8 Dairy Queens. I was a Dairy Queen owner until 1994. In that particular time frame, I owned 3 Mexican restaurants, an executive search firm. I became an entrepreneur. I became like somebody that just needed to breed business. And obviously, I liked what I did. And then when 9/11 came, my executive search business went down the tube. Nobody was hiring people. They were laying them off by the millions. And so I got interested in using my name, Garcia, to help other the minority community, because I'd been fortunate enough to have gathered a lot of talents in that period of time. So I've been in the nonprofit world 23 years, from 2002 to date. During that time, of course, I've been blessed to have been able to do a lot of things and lead a lot of entities to profit. And the nonprofit world is really a for-profit that doesn't pay taxes. But we don't sell any widgets, we don't sell anything, we just sell service, which is lovely because that's what I love to do. So that's how I got into this business as the executive director of the association that I represent, which is NAMC. I wear the cap, I wear the brand, National Association of Minority Contractors. Houston, Texas, where I live, is a majority city. In other words, we make the majority of the city populace. Hispanics, Latinos, Pacific Asians, Vietnamese, you name it, we've got it. We're the United Nations of the city. Some demographers have said that we are the most diverse city in the United States, more so than Chicago or New York City or whatever. I don't dispute it, I just live in it, and I love what I see. We're just woven into like a tapestry of humanity, which is great here. And so I've had an opportunity to do many things. I write author, I'm on my 6th book of how to market yourself to the top. I'm a marketing guy. I believe that nothing happens until you sell something. And so I bring that talent that I was able to acquire to the table. I'm by no means a award-winning writer. I'm a terrible speller, so I wear out Google, but that didn't keep me from writing the experiences that I had been so fortunate in having. So that's, in a nutshell, that's basically who I am. I believe in helping people. I believe that if I leave this earth, whenever that time comes, and if I haven't given back all that I know, then I've sold everybody short, starting with myself. So that's kind of what my theory is.
Well, obviously, when you're saying community, when you're talking about a city like Houston, you're talking one of the largest cities in the country in land space, the 4th largest city in population. It's expected at some point to surpass Chicago and become the 3rd largest city in the United States. And you have a lot of different businesses, a lot of medical facilities, NASA, you name it, it's in Houston. What kind of makes Houston so successful, and also the greater Houston area too, because there's 2 differences. There's the city limits of Houston, Texas, and then there's greater Houston. So what is kind of drawing the growth of people and businesses to Houston, Texas, and greater Houston?
Thank you for asking. I think, first of all, we have a great location. We're 50 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, but we have probably the largest medical center in the United States, I believe, and one in the world. And so we have a huge medical entity here. And of course, population is getting older, so obviously more people want to come to Houston from all over to take good medical care. Secondly is, of course, our old favorite, oil and gas. We're the oil and gas capital of the world still. And then, of course, we have NASA. And those 3, and education close by, but those 3 or 4 entities have kept Houston vibrant. One other thing that's kept Houston vibrant and a place people like to come is that there's opportunity here. There's opportunity here for everybody. Obviously, it's growing, and we now have 3 rings around the city. We have an inner ring, which goes around the entire city, 610 loop. We have a second ring, which is Beltway 8. 610 is probably 8 miles from the center of Houston. Beltway is probably 23 miles. And then we have 99, which you have to go 149 miles to encompass all that area, and it's probably 35, 40 miles from the center of Houston. So a lot of concrete, a lot of people. I think that what drives people to Houston most, and they stay in Houston, it's not the hot weather, obviously. It's not the mugginess, but it's the fact that we share everything. My attitude that I just professed is an attitude. Houston's a wonderful city. Because we have hurricanes, what happens when we have hurricanes, and this is the whole city Houston area, Harris County, Houston area, Montgomery County, into the south, Fort Bend County, we're doers. We're action. Before FEMA comes or before the city comes, we've already cleaned it up and put it on the curb. It's unbelievable how we do this. When there's a disaster, neighbors just flock with their saws and with whatever they need to be able to help each other. It takes me back to when St. Louis used to have the MDA, I think, fundraising. We at that time was probably the 5th or 6th largest city. We were always the top most given city. Houston is a given city. It's a friendly city. We take our business clothes off and put on cowboy hats and boots and jeans from February to March and have the largest rodeo for those month and a half, 2 months in the world. Largest rodeo. So it's a great place to be because obviously also, and thank you for alluding to the fact that we're very spacious. Very spacious, so we just keep expanding and outwardly, but we don't lose the inner feeling of we're Houstonians. I personally live close to Woodlands, Texas, which is 25 miles from downtown Houston. But I sleep in the Woodlands, but I work in Houston. And we all travel by car, by the way. Our mass transit is great mass transit, but it's inner city. Everybody drives here in Houston to work or wherever they're going.
Right. And you mentioned the Woodlands as the greater Houston area, which you have some of the nice suburbs and surrounding towns that make up Houston. But when you look at the population base, I think the metro area is about close to 7 million people. The city of Houston is over 2 million people. Do you still get a sense that sometimes people overlook Houston? I mean, you hear about Houston, but sometimes you don't hear it like you hear in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, even Atlanta. Do you think Houston kind of gets overlooked to some degree, or Houston is the city that everybody knows about, in your opinion?
We're trying to keep it a secret.
Okay.
to kind of keep the population down. I think that Houston does not get overlooked in the medical area. It does not get looked in the oil and gas area. We don't have large theaters like New York City has, or maybe some venues like Los Angeles has perhaps. But I don't think, living here in Houston, I don't feel like we're overlooked. We have also the largest port, 50 miles away, the first inland port that I know of. That's also very vibrant. I think in the box cars, we're number 1 in the world, if I'm not mistaken, exporting, importing. So there's so much agriculture. We have, excuse me for the thought, but Houston has an average of 40 inches of rain a year, and when we have a storm, it goes to 55, 60. So it's a green city. Everything grows here, and so it's a welcoming city from that standpoint. And again, I think that we don't lose it, and we're proud to be Houstonians. And when you come in, listen, you're part of the family. We want you to be a Houstonian. We want you to learn how we do things so that you can be happy too. Because if you're unhappy, we don't pay state taxes, so that's a good thing. So there's a lot of positives in Houston. More than anything else, it's a positiveness of each individual Houstonian or greater Houston area. We are very positive. We're doers. We're workers. We're achievers. And we're happy to be where we're at, and we're proud to be where we're at.
Okay. And again, you kind of represent as the executive director of the National Association of Minority Contractors. So does that represent this organization, does this represents all different types of minorities or just a certain few?
Yes, thanks for asking. Yes, it does. However, the population of Houston, the greatest population in Houston, ethnic-wise, is the Latino population, the Hispanic population. We probably make up 48 to 50% of the population. African Americans probably make 18 to 20%. And then Pacific Asians are growing very, very fast. They make up probably 8 or 9%. And we have the United Nations. Everybody, people from Turkey, people from East, people from India, people from everywhere. They come to Houston for the medical, or they come to Houston for the port, or they come to Houston for business. We're Business USA here. In the overlooking, I don't think we get overlooked. I think that we just have an influx of people coming in, and we try to bring them in. We're a southern city, right? So we're very hospitable. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you become part of our family. I think that's probably the main thing. We want you to be part of the Texas family, part of the Houstonian family. We want to treat you like a relative.
Stan, you was talking earlier about our international city here. Do you have any questions or any comments you want to add to the conversation with our guests?
No, I'm listening and enjoying the conversation. And my biggest takeaway in listening is the attitude, and there's an attitude of champions, an attitude of winners,
right?
And you hear that, and that's what he's talking about. That's what he's expressing. So, if you go to Houston, I'm sure it's in the atmosphere. You're gonna feel, sense, and that you are in a city that wants to do better, that wants to help. You can't, and people find these things difficult to embrace a lot of times, but they're not that difficult. You reap what you sow. If you want to get, you have to give, but you got to give out of a pure heart.
Right.
And the more you are surrounded by giving people, the more there's prosperity. When people are stingy and only what's in it for me, that's the death knell. And you start watching the cities decline. So I'm just enjoying what I'm hearing.
All right, exactly. Well, again, when you're talking about a city that's attracting a lot of people, if you're looking to start a business, you're looking to enter the workforce, you're looking to build a home, you're looking to send your children to school, what is some of the benefits of Houston, Texas, towards what it would have to offer? Like, you do your part, meeting you halfway. What is the part now that being in Houston or Greater Houston now offers you for what you're trying to achieve?
You're talking about our association, for example?
Well, no. Well, Houston in general. You could tie your association into the question, but really the opportunities that exist in Houston and Greater Houston, and then you can put your association involving that level too.
Okay, thank you. So let me make a statement here that we construction, by the way, is the 5th largest entity here in Houston. There's the medical, there's the oil and gas, and the port, and NASA, and then there's construction. You see, in Houston, as in most cities, the attitude that we've taken in NAMC and also in the city, very smart, wealthy, intelligent people build plans, build dreams. We in construction make sure those dreams become a reality. The medical center has 50,000 people that work in the medical center. It probably would be a nice downtown area for, I don't know, maybe a 500,000 population town. Big, okay? And so I think that the thing is that how can we make it better? How can we grow it better? I agree with the comment that we're very positive people. Again, we've had 5 days of 100-degree weather, but we're the most air-conditioned city in the world. So, it goes from my car to the work, and from the car and also to events. So forth. We hold a lot of events. We cherish people. We want to uplift people. And when you come to Houston, if you have an attitude that's unlike that, you'll lose it quickly because, how can you be mad when you smile, right? And so we practice a lot of smiling for the right reason, to help you become a Houstonian. People that come from other states become a Texan very, very quickly. They like what they see. They like the relaxed atmosphere. If we were to triple the workforce here in Houston, Texas, we still would be behind in construction. There's probably, I'm going to say in the next 12 months, there's probably 15 to 20 billion dollars worth of projects. Metro, medical, everybody is building. Everybody's building. The suburbs or the outer parts. You put a we have like 5 or 6 business centers. Now that may be not unusual for New York City, but here, because we have this spaciousness, we just built something like the energy corridor, 15 miles from downtown. The energy corridor goes there, hospitals go there, schools goes there. The school system probably needs a lot of help, not just in Houston, but all over the country. I think we forgot how to write, read, and spell. We need to get back to the basics. While everything else is important, our education is the most important thing. I use the Vietnamese culture that came to Texas and has conquered Texas, in a way, in a respectful way. They're smart. They educate their kids. They make sure that they get their dentists, doctors, so forth. We, the Latino population, need to use that as a guide, as an example, because again, nothing will make things better or equal than education. You've got to be educated so that you can be able to take advantage, not just of your current situation, but of the future situation. Again, we built 3 highway rings around Houston for the growth. We just got off, and it's still going. We just did a purification plant, 30 miles from Houston. We built it on the lake, and it's a $2 billion project. It employed 1,000 men and women in construction a day, and still it's going. So we build for the future. We don't think so much of right now or before. We'll never see before again because it's gone. So we always look to the future, to the brightness. We have a lot of associations, a lot of organizations that are so positive and so forth. So I love being here in Houston because, again, this is a place for entrepreneurs. This is a place for young people to get ahead. This is a place where you can have a meaningful life. We're a young city, so consequently we have these suburbs and we have these so forth. There's a lot of gentrification going on in the core of Houston. People have found out, hey, I don't want to drive an hour. I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and gentrify and make everybody whole that's in that area. But we've taken areas that are blighted in Houston and made them sparkling. I don't know of any building of any consequence here in Houston, Texas that's over 20 years old. We tear them down and we rebuild them, or we build them from scratch. It's new here in Houston. Everything.
Well, you just said one thing about the blightness or the blighted areas, and when Houston is such a huge city, it's kind of hard to really single out every particular area. But yeah, I've heard of the wards area, like the 3rd Ward, the 5th Ward, some of your hard pressed, I guess you could say, blighted areas of Houston. Do you see any type of development that's even going on in those particular parts of the city that would be helpful towards the future?
Thank you for asking. I think I can be an example of what happens in Houston, or to some degree. I got into real estate here late in my years, but I wanted to be in real estate. I passed up all these places in the Dairy Queens where I could have done something. So about 15 years ago, I decided to go into real estate. And I asked a builder, a friend of mine, where should I build, Bob Berry, with Berry Homes? He said, build where nobody else is building, because sooner or later they'll be there. So I bought properties in Cashmere Garden. Now, these are properties that are way, way below the economic scale. George Foreman, the champion George Foreman, 5th Ward. So what I did when I bought these houses, everybody thought they were going to tear up. I went ahead and rebuilt them. And since I've been in the restaurant business, I made island kitchens. And then I went to Section 8, and I rented it to Section 8 people because I wanted Section 8 people, children, to know what it was to have a nice home. And so that's not just me, that's us. That's a city. I mean, 5th Ward now has become, it's booming. It's got like, I don't know, $7 or $8 billion worth of projects because it's only about 4 miles from downtown Houston. So we rebuild the inner core. We make lives better for all of us by doing it. We're a friendly city. We're a law-abiding citizen. We get to be more law-abiding, but I don't know. You come to Houston, Texas, and you mentioned the schools. Um, I moved to the suburbs because of the schools, but now the schools in the inner city are getting better because you're having all these folks that are building 2-story, 3-story townhouses type of houses. And so first thing they look is to improve the schools. So the inner core is improving slowly but surely because of the fact that more people are coming in that care. Doesn't mean the people that are there don't care. They just need to be helped.
Well, you had just mentioned that there's billions of dollars. You mentioned as a realtor. So actually, when you're saying the wards areas or the Fifth Ward area, there's a lot of development towards the real estate, or is it a combination of real estate and business?
Mostly real estate.
Mostly real. Okay.
Mostly real estate. The business is already around the area where the areas that are more economically challenged are close to the downtown area, close to the University of Houston, close to Texas Southern University. And so these areas are emerging there. You know, we've had young people that are coming in and they're building these nice, very nice apartments, very nice houses and so forth. Because again, housing in Houston is up to a certain point, it's very inexpensive. In my search work, I used to relocate people from Chicago, from New York, and I'd say, this is about 15 years ago, when you sell your $500,000 house in Chicago or in New York or Los Angeles, be prepared to have a mini mansion here in Houston. Because for $500,000, you can have the same mansion or the same type of housing that the rich people have in these metropolitan areas. $500,000 house here in Houston gets you 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, gets you a lot that's anywhere from 10 to 11,000 square feet. I mean, everything is bigger in Texas and obviously here in Houston and more affordable. I think the affordable part is very, very important. We don't want to have a state tax. We already have enough taxes. And so I get this. It's a big city that operates like a small town. We take care of each other. We care for each other. We build for each other. We behave with each other. We're Southern city in that we have good manners most of the time. And so it's a wonderful place to live. And everything is green here in Houston. Now, who wouldn't grow? I mean, we got more rainfall in Seattle. We just got through having 5 days of continuous rain. And now we've got continuous heat. But that's okay, because it's Houston.
Well,
we forgive them.
yeah. Well, Abel, when you're mentioning about the quality of life and what you can get for $500,000, what about the wage salaries? I mean, what could $50,000 get you in Houston or Greater Houston? Could you get we was talking earlier about being more comfortable. Could you have a very good, decent, comfortable life if you can aim for a $50,000 year pay scale in Houston? Because people will say that's not considered a lot in New York or Boston. But how does that fare in Houston or Greater Houston?
Thank you. I think like most of or you have, a couple, couples together. I think if a couple together with family or by themselves make, I'm going to say $80,000, you can live very well. You can live probably as well as somebody in New York City making a couple of $100,000. From my experience in the search work, it's just a place that if you're not happy, if you need more money, there's more jobs. You can have 2 jobs. You can, especially working from home now for those folks, they have 3 or 4 jobs. Well, I believe that you can live more comfortably here in Houston, Texas, than any other larger metropolitan area, and enjoy it more.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Well, let me ask you, and I kind of want to bring you into this question too, Stan. You're saying, Abel, right now, you have the jobs, you have the businesses, you have the industry that's there. Yes. And then we was talking off of the air how you would like to share that throughout other parts of the country where they could duplicate that. Stan, Hartford is not, or any city in Connecticut is not going to be as large and diversified like Houston. But if you wanted to, let's say, Stan, bring in a business, or you wanted to expand some business opportunities, and you looked at now Houston, Texas, do you think that makes sense to go out of the state looking to bring in businesses, or do you think you better serve trying to create the businesses that you can duplicate here? I mean, I don't know how you look at that.
Well, when quote unquote city leaders or politicians look outside of their own area to want to bring people in, a lot of that I think is hyperbole and just talk. If you can't grow the things you say you need from where you're at, then you have a problem. It's not just go get someone and bring them in, because if your education system isn't right, there's so many things that have to be in play that make your city an attractive city. People want to go to Houston.
Yeah.
They're not trying to raid places and drag them in there under duress.
Right.
People want to go there. They're trying to keep it a secret because it's growing so fast.
Right.
That is not the case here. And so I think, to your point, Houston makes a great place to go to see how it's done, what causes it to be done. And a lot of that is the attitude of individuals that live in Houston. And to that degree, cities that want to be where they are have to think in terms of human development. And this is something that you see as a common theme with all of the people that you bring that are from other cities that are successful. There's a deep investment into human capital, education, quality of life, and other people in the community desiring to make life better for other folks. That's a whole nother mindset and headspace than it is where people are kind of in more of a survival mode and how can I make things good for me? Me, my, I. How can I use someone else to get what I want? How can I exploit those people to get what I want? How can I take advantage of this political opportunity for me? That's a whole, and we don't get a long drawn out conversation, but I mean, there's a difference in how they do what they do in Houston. And it's, if it's abundantly clear. It's only not clear to people who are living in denial on how bad things are where they are.
Right.
In my opinion.
Well, I just wanted to get your opinion about, sometime looking towards another place, and you kind of answered the question too. You could look at what they're doing and get some good ideas. Duplicating what they're doing, that might be of a bigger challenge now because it's a different type of city. They have things there that you just don't have, like the Texas Medical Center, 50 to 100,000 people. You don't have anything anywhere close.
Right. There's more people working. Half of our city's population would be employed by the medical center.
The medical center alone.
So there's no. You're talking apples and oranges, but the things that can be looked at as examples and models for growth are there. What you wind up with would be success. Not another Houston, but a successful Hartford or a successful wherever town you're from. And so that's what you want to look at, success.
Right.
And that takes planning, takes vision, but it takes corporate and collective. And when I say corporate, I don't mean corporation. It takes group buy-in and consensus from people in leadership positions we want to work to make our city a different place. How do we get from where we are to where we want to be? And how many years is it going to take to get there? And how dedicated are we to that end?
Definitely makes a lot of sense. Abel, one thing you did mention, and I agree with what you said, when I asked you about what you are developing in the wards, the 5th Ward, and you said real estate, but then you mentioned it's only 4 miles to downtown. So if you're looking for jobs or occupations, even though you may not have it directly in your residential areas, only being 4 miles to downtown is really a walking distance to some degree. So yes, but the housing component, I think what you are doing even in that area is very important, because just as much as you need businesses, you have to have homes where people live, and whether it's home ownership or just apartments or condos or whatever. So I think it's a good combination when you're 4 miles to downtown.
Yes.
Towards that linkage.
Yes.
And what are some of the other things that you're constantly working on or that you're looking to work on though currently?
in NAMC, we're part of 23 organizations throughout the country.
Mhm.
But I noticed a difference. I go where there's opportunity. I go where I can use my assets to be able to improve things. I came to NAMC when it had 30 members
Mhm.
in this large city, and it had 3 corporate partners. We're probably a case study on how to grow a business. Today we have over 500 members. 5 years from that, we have over 51 corporate partners. So I mean, we grew it because again, we wanted to help the people that are artists. They just do their artwork in buildings and schools and hospitals and so forth. So we appreciate everybody's talent. But let me speak to the part that I think is unique in Houston. We're a majority city. And what were Abel Garcia's dreams? Abel Garcia's dreams was to come to Houston, to get ahead, to grow a family and so forth. And Houston has provided it, but it continues to be that same push. When I speak, I advocate for our membership. When I speak to city council or the county, which is rare, but when I speak to these corporate folks, they're, what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing? Who are you going to do business with? I mean, we're the majority population. Come on, you're Houstonian. You've got to do better. 15% participation in a project is nothing. They'll run me off if I go tell my membership, guess what? We got 15% of that $100 million project. No, it has to be 40. Has to be 30. It has to be, we're 100%, 70% of the taxpayers. So we advocate, but we don't burn the city down. We advocate, we make people responsible. And the people that are here, the white population that's here, if you may, grew up with us. They know what we went through. We're ambitious. I taught a class for 2 kids in a low-income area. These kids are hungry. They want information. They want to know, how do I get ahead? How do I go? Instead of going to work at the Burger King or the Dairy Queen or the McDonald's, go work at a doctor's office. You want to be a doctor? Go sweep the floors at a doctor's office. You think he'll run you off? No, because he came from the same place you are, because we're majority minority. Go do what you want to do. You have to ask for what you want. And we're a city that asks for what we want and what we need. So you have to have that, leadership say, yes, we're going to participate in bringing folks up, because we were there once. Maybe people in Boston, they have a great heritage, I don't know. But everybody, to some degree, has been needy sometime. We have the largest food bank in the country here in Houston. We reach out. We're the most giving city that I know of, and so forth. And so it's a great, I agree with a comment that we have, our leadership is geared towards, let's share this. I've raised money for about 10 entities. And I said, so I'm here because we need to have money to grow. Because who are you going to do business with? Who are you going to sell your oil and gas? Who are you going to sell your cars to? It's us. We're here. Let's help each other. Let's build this thing together. I find that minorities also work well when they're given respect. When they're saying, okay, you want a shot? We'll give you a shot. And that's all we want. We just want a shot. And then it's up to us. But we've had, without getting too deep into anything else, we've had such a difficult or challenging beginning that anything that shows a little light, we follow it and we expand it. And then we share it with our family, with our friends. So that may be a unique thing in Houston, I'm not sure.
Well, you had mentioned Houston is like you're the majority minority city. So the minorities make up the majority of the population. But really, how can you be a minority if you're the majority? That's the little tricky part about.
We're a majority in many, many ways. Yes, Latinos have the largest population. But we have people. We have a high school that has 102 languages or something in the southern part of the city. I mean, everybody comes to Houston, so we're all a minority. So how would I treat, for example, somebody that comes from Africa? Okay, I treat them with a lot of respect because those folks have a better educational system than we do. So I appreciate that, and I try to instill that and bring them into our loop by saying, bring how you grew up, bring how important education was to you, because that's going to help us realize that we're taking things for granted. So I think that everybody has taken that pill that says we have to share because that's who we are. Houston, Texas, is a minority-embraced city.
Mm.
That we make the major population, and please forgive me for this, but we don't believe in violence. We
Mm.
believe in getting things done the right way. If I can stand with a placard that says you're being unfair to Latinos, I would much rather do that than burn a building down because that's not who we are. And then that's not criticizing other folks. I'm just saying the seed of goodness is within us. And I think when you come from another place or you place us somewhere else, we can spread that seed. I think if you were to say, we're going to relocate you to New York City, heaven forbid, or Los Angeles, I'd have a tough time. I'd have a tough time because I'm working against a culture that has been there for a long time. And so hopefully my methods would work that I've used here in helping people and getting organizations. But that's, I think that our, and if I may, I think our government needs to start looking at positive, how can we improve our education? Let's start with education because that's our children, that's our future. And then go forward. Let's stop being so divisive, so whatever. I mean, we're Americans.
Mm.
We're Estonians. What do you mean? What are you doing? I mean, you're Estonian. You can't do that.
Right. Right. Well, you know, to be honest, somebody told me a while ago, because I was always under the impression here that Atlanta was really the best city for black businesses, black middle class. But this person told me he felt Houston, Texas existed as the best city. And when you mention African, you have a large Nigerian population, the largest in the country that resides in Houston. But they bring a lot to the table. They bring good education. They bring good businesses. So
Absolutely.
I guess it sounds like to me they're coming here with something to offer, but they're also still looking for opportunities too. So it's kind of a unique flavor because truthfully, a lot of people in the beginning, the minorities from different parts of the country, they're usually having to come here to this country, having to start off at the bottom, working, looking for jobs. It's this type of debate that we're paying people cheap labor, working people under the table. But when you have a population like the Nigerians and Asian people who are coming to Houston and Greater Houston, they're bringing a skill set and an educational level that has to be beneficial to the city of Houston.
That's a good point. Let me make another good point, if I may. The people from Mexico and from Central America do not have the same pedigree that folks from Europe or Africa or other places have. But they have one ingredient. They know that this is a land of milk and honey, okay, to be in America. And so I was the president of a Latino Chamber of Commerce, nothing but Hispanics. The program was conducted in Spanish. From that group, I met so many people, and I'm an American, I'm a Texan, right? We go through that struggle. We have, I think it's a $1 billion grocery store chain built by a gentleman that says, I came here with no language, no money, and no job. And look at me. Now, he doesn't say, look at me, we look at him. And there's so many examples here in Houston, Texas, of people that came here with nothing, just wanting to be somebody. And I'll mention one more thing, please. This is not a racial comment at all. Every promotion that I've ever had, every step of the way that I've ever gained, has been through a white person. A white person gave me the opportunity to be a manager. A white person gave me an opportunity to be a district manager, division manager. A white person gave me an opportunity to go into real estate. There doesn't exist. I mean, yes, it does, but to a very less degree. We don't think about those things. We think about how can we help you. By helping you, we help ourselves as well as you. So people that come from other countries, they're our best Americans, by the way, because they know that they didn't have the same thing in Cuba and Salvador or in Africa or wherever. They come to a shining example of I can be anything I want to be here in Houston. If I apply myself, if I'm willing to work 2 jobs or 3 jobs or 4 jobs, whatever it takes. I worked my way through school and I didn't know a penny of nobody. I only got an Associate of Arts, but that was enough because what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a businessman. And I've had probably 12 or 14 businesses. I can tell you that not all of them have been successful. I've had 3 or 4 that have been some bitter downfalls, but from those downfalls, I learned, don't do that again. Do something better. Do it different. And let me share the downfalls that I had. Let me not be embarrassed by it. so that others can learn from my mistakes. Don't know if that makes sense or not.
It makes a lot of sense. I think everything you said this morning makes a lot of sense. I just wish we would have had a little bit more time to really prepare. And I think we did a great job, don't get me wrong. I just wish I would have had a little bit more time to really prepare for this show. But again, working with what we had to work with, and you did an excellent job making my job a lot easier, leading the way. So I definitely appreciate that, because I really wasn't planning to even do a show about Houston. It's just something just came up. But again, I mean, I really appreciate you being available under short notice. You didn't even look at it that way, to be honest, and I appreciate that. We're just scratching the surface, but again, I enjoyed and I found very interesting and informative. The one thing that stood out that you said out of all the things you just mentioned was you wasn't satisfied when you said something about the 15% of the contracts. You felt like 30 to 40% of the contracts. I say that's playing the game to win, not just playing the game. I mean, we could get into a long conversation on that, but I think that kind of stood out when you just said, look, forget this 15%, man. We got to aim for a higher number. 15 is good. It's okay. But I think 40, I like that a lot better. So I just wanted to give you praises for that movement with your organization, what you're aiming for. We're just about out of time. Anything last words you want to say briefly before we end this particular segment? Feel free to do so.
One last comment that I'd like to make that I think is important. You have leaders, you have politicians. I've had the opportunity to speak before the city council and the county commissioners. And so my speech to them, because probably 80% of those commissioners and 80% of those city council people are minorities. And so I spoke to them. They give you 3 minutes, and I said, I'll forget about 3 minutes. I'm here to talk. And so you have to be bold. And so I said, when I came to Houston in '67, all my African-American friends, all my Latino friends said, when we get in power, message to city council, you've been in power 20 years, you're doing the same thing with the people you replaced. When are you going to get to where we're not getting power? Same thing with the commissioners. 2 commissioners that I came here were kids. You cannot live where you lived before and not improve matters. And so I make people accountable. What is it that you're telling me? What is it that you're doing? And I think if you do that with your city officials, rather than be Democrat or Republican, those folks are getting paid so it can help you. And you need to make them accountable face to face. You don't have to throw bombs, just face to face. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? When you grew up poor. And there's poor people here. Why are you not helping them and us and you? So we make people accountable. Yes.
That's an excellent way to end the show. Accountability. I can't disagree with that. Stan, I guess you want to close it? Obviously.
I you don't need a backup sermon. I mean, everything he said was on the money as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for having invited me. I thoroughly enjoy spreading the word of what works in Houston, what works for us, and what I wish would work for everybody.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Okay. Take care, Abel. All right. Yes. Thank
Good
you.
day. Bye-bye.
Bye bye now. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, accountability, I mean, obviously, and I mean, when you hear me every now and then sound off about, well, these contracts, set aside contracts, it wasn't part of the legislation, why, I know your model is, you want a project that gets done that's going to serve the people. We talked about this last week, even with the infrastructure MDC work, okay, let it, the main goal is to provide the water and the sewage issues. And don't look back at the past. But contracts, opportunities in place. It's like, Stan, I want to do my part. I'm willing to meet you halfway. Okay, you tell me what you need me to do to be in a position to get a contract or to get a job. Okay, that's on me. Tell me what the criteria is, what the description is. Now I get that. And then you change the rules a little bit now. All of a sudden, okay, you don't have this. The project is going to take 2 or 3 years. We can't work with people. You have to be in the union. be upfront with me and don't lead me on to thinking, okay, you have me with the runaround. I don't want to say that's the norm here in Connecticut, but it seems like to me the track record. You talk to people, even with the Hartford Jobs funnel. You remember that funnel at Vita Root Building? Get the certificates. People thought they was under the impression of being part of the Clean Water Project. They get the certificates, and then there's no jobs.
I think the key to what you're talking about ultimately is education in terms of information.
Mm-hmm.
You can't ask for something that you don't know.
Right, that's fair.
The biggest problem is not what you know, it's what you don't know.
Oh, okay.
And so when you are trying to take off the table what you believe you deserve,
mm-hmm.
understand that there are people who don't want you to have what's on the table.
Right.
And so you build alliances and you leverage that to get your fair share.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know what your fair share is.
Right.
You go to the table and you ask for an orange. You realize at the other end of the table is a succulent turkey dinner. Now you mad because no one told you about the turkey dinner.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their responsibility to tell you about the turkey dinner unless they're giving people, and most aren't.
Right.
It's your responsibility to know what is actually on the table.
Okay.
And then the people who you're asking, what's their role in providing?
Mm.
Well, if it's somebody that's elected to office, as our guest talked about, the county legislators, whether they be the county commissioners or your city council people. Well, we don't have county commissioners here, but we do have city council people.
Mm-hmm.
And you have elected representatives. Accountability means consequence.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to hold people accountable, which means a consequence,
Right.
then they're not gonna do anything other than give you the runaround.
Mm-hmm.
Runaround is unacceptable.
Right.
So you have to make them understand it's unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
If you just go away mad, then there's no consequence. In fact, you're the one that suffers the consequence because you're now mad.
Right.
But there was no impact on them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when you speak for people, when you speak for yourself, and you are sincere
Right.
about bringing about change, you make it understood what you want and what the consequence is for failure to deliver. You're not asking for something unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking for representation, which
Right.
is rightly due to you. You're asking for a piece of the pie, which you should rightly have. The ingredients in the pie were made by things that you grew.
Mm.
Baking the pie was made by your contribution. So you have a right to a slice
Right.
of the pie, maybe even a quarter of the pie or a third of the pie.
Mm.
But they will give you the crumbs.
Yeah.
If you walk away happy with the crumbs, then their win. So you have to be able to fight. You have to have the resources to fight, and people that you're fighting with have to know that you are sincere, which requires a track record. If your track record is always taking the okie doke, then guess what? When you walk in the room, they already know you'll take the okie doke.
All right.
If you stand up for what you believe and fight for what you believe, and you fight for your community, and your community is behind you, when you go in the room, they understand. Look, we're going to have to cut a bigger deal because they're not going to go away until we give them what they're asking for. And so I think it's reasonable what they're asking for. And there's a big difference on how negotiations happen.
All right.
If you negotiate and always wind up on the losing end, then there's a reason you wind up on the losing end all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the guest, Abel, and I didn't really get into it too much with disparities and inequities about Houston because I really didn't plan this type of show, and I wanted to really follow the lead with him the best that I knew how to. But you said it before, there's going to always be some people that's not going to get the job or get the contract. If you got 100 jobs and you got 1,000 people applying for 100 jobs,
only 100 gonna get the job.
so 900 is gonna be left out.
It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of life.
Right. I think the difference, what I'm hearing from him, Abel, Garcia is that in certain industries they have more jobs than they have people. So if the medical field is your niche, or you're educated in the medical field, or whatever other field that's growing there, you know, space, NASA, whatever, you know, on that level, or any other businesses, if like you said, I guess you gotta know what's available. You said that's the biggest issue right now, is knowing
what's available, but also knowing what you want.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old adage: take care of the nest. You and yours are your responsibility to protect, and everyone else will do the same. Once all the nests are protected, protect the community.
Right.
Protect the region, protect the state, and on and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a champion for everybody, but you can be a champion for yourself and those around you. And then you coalesce with like-minded people, and you create an association, and they champion for the good of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So if, as our guests grew an organization, grew representation, people have a track record of delivery. When you walk in a room, all you have to really do is walk in the room.
Right.
He doesn't have to throw bombs. All he has to do is appear.
Mm-hmm.
And they know he's serious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to negotiate for the good of those who I'm here to represent. And at the end of the day, we're all going to do better.
Right.
So let's cut to the chase, gentlemen, and get this thing on.
Mm-hmm.
If you walk in the room just as an agitator, or I'm gonna get my way, or I'm gonna create chaos for you, that's not how you negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna negotiate through bully tactics.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll walk away with a very short-term gain, and then when it's gone, you're not gonna get anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So people have to understand, and this takes time for some people to understand. But we're running out of time.
Okay, ran out of time today. All right.
We can't have a post-guest conversation because we had a pre-guest conversation. And we're out of time now.
Right.
The guest was very good. Great interview, Jonathan.
Right. And again, next week going to be about 1983, big event that took place. So looking forward to that. Just want to fine tune it and make sure that this guest is still going to be available, which I had already got the show confirmed weeks ago. So something in 1983 you're going to find very interesting that took place.
All right. Well, we'll have that discussion next week. All right, my friends, our time together has come to an end. We'll see you all real soon. You all go out and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.